Hi, welcome to Fox Valley Today. I'm Barb Nadeau. My guests today are here to talk about something you've probably never heard of before. I know I had never heard of it before, but recently on our show we had Terry Guinn here with Celebrate Differences, and we're glad to have him back again. Terry is here with his daughter, Kirsten, and we're here to talk about National Prader-Willi Syndrome Awareness Month. And Terry, thank you for coming. And Kirsten, it's so nice to meet you. Thank you for being here on our show.
Thank you for having us.
Now, we're just getting started for the show, and I know I told you that we had to be really quiet, but now we can talk all we want. So,
Yeah.
Kirsten, are you glad to be here?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about you. I want to know a little bit about Kirsten. You, I understand, are a twin,
Yeah.
and you're one of 4 kids in your family. So tell me about your brothers and sisters.
No.
No? Don't want to tell me? Well, you are a twin, right? You've got a
Yeah.
twin sister, Julianne, and then Terry, you also have an older daughter and a
Right.
younger son?
16-year-old daughter driving soon, and a son 14.
And a son, 14, and then Kirsten and Julianne are
yeah, the
10
twins.
years old.
They're 10 years old.
And
yes.
so they're your youngest.
They're our youngest.
Well, you have a full household, and looking at 2 teenagers and drivers and all the things that high school has in store, you're a very busy guy.
Very busy. Actually, I work a lot, so my wife's more busier than I am.
You're on the board of directors for Celebrate Differences,
Right.
and Celebrate Differences, of course, is just a fantastic foundation in the Oswego area for families who are dealing with a family member with special challenges, and that could
Correct.
be any age and any challenge.
Any age, any disability, any challenge. And not just in Oswego, but northern Illinois. We're actually looking to open an office in central Illinois.
I know, you were telling me that, and I think that's phenomenal. Obviously, Celebrate Differences is something that the timing was right and the need is there.
Right.
And so it's really good that you're doing that.
It's a great organization. It is.
Now, when you were here last time, you were talking to me about the fact that you had a daughter with Prader-Willi Syndrome. That's Kirsten.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious, I had never heard of it, and I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit more about it. And I hope, is that okay with you, Kirsten? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do? You think about it. Okay.
Boy, couldn't shut her up before the show.
That's all right. You know what? A lot of people get a little bit of stage fright when they're behind the camera. But Terry, tell me a little bit about your journey as a parent with these twin girls. That your 3rd and 4th child in your family.
Well, they were shocked to begin with. The twins, they weren't planned. Twins definitely weren't planned, but a birth wasn't planned. And for me, when we found out we were having twins, it was like Tim the Toolman Taylor. I'm beating on my chest, and my wife's breaking into tears. I'm not sure if it was because, the idea of having twins in general, but definitely probably because of actually giving birth to twins. Mm-hmm. But it was a lot of fun and exciting because twins. Not too many people have twins, and it does run in my family. So we found out, but. Kirsten was born, Kirsten and Julianne were born, and something wasn't right. She wasn't eating right.
And you knew it right away?
Well, twins, it's a different experience. So some of the things you would think a parent would know, now you've been thrown twins and you expect things to be a little different. But Kirsten wasn't eating as well as Julianne was. And I like a challenge, so I could get her to eat, and I probably could. I was more successful at it than anybody. But it was a different experience. So we take her home, and we get a nurse's visit the day after, I think it was, and we talked to her about her eating, and she says, "No, you got to take her to the hospital right now." Yes.
Yeah. Did she say why?
Well, because she was sleeping. She was sleeping all the time, wasn't making any sounds, and she was it was hard to feed her. So we take her to the hospital, and that's where the floppy baby. We talked about the floppy baby syndrome.
Mm-hmm. You and I talked about it before the show, and I told you I had heard about children being born, and somewhere along the line heard that they would have that a baby was born with floppy baby syndrome. I don't know what that means, though.
Well, I think that was one of the signs for the nurse. She could see a difference between the two girls.
Their muscle tone.
The muscle tone.
And how
Right.
they reacted, even as infants, she could tell.
Exactly.
Okay.
And floppy baby syndrome, you think about muscles, that's everything. Our eyes, our heart, I mean, it's everything we do, and it's everything in our body. And when that tone or the muscle mass isn't built, and the tone isn't there, there's a lot of risk, a lot of danger to the child.
Well, and I think it's really interesting that that babies are moving constantly in their development when they're in the womb. They are constantly moving and growing those muscles, building those muscles, even before they're born, so that it's obvious that she had not been doing that much movement beforehand. But when you look at intelligence later, we gain all of our intelligence and we gain all of our ability when we learn to crawl, when we grab a spoon, when we do all those things that we do. That's when we build this muscle up here too. So it's all tied together, isn't it?
It is. And she was, we were having twins, what do we know? But she wasn't moving. Julianne was, but Julianne was baby B, is what they call her, and she was on top. So we just figured she was crowding Kirsten out.
Okay, and baby B. So she was the one that was
on top.
So Julianne is actually the baby of the family, the youngest.
Exactly.
You were born before Julianne. You're older. How much older are you than her? Like a minute or?
34 minutes.
34 minutes older? Do you lord that over her? Do you tell her that, well, I'm your older sister and you're the little sister? No. No? Okay, I just had to ask. Okay. So you're half an hour, a little bit more than half an hour older than her. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll let you continue.
That's okay.
With your story.
Well, so that's where it starts. The floppy baby syndrome starts. You're at a point where you can't do anything. She was on the feeding tube for the first 6 months, slept most of it, didn't cry. Matter of fact, she didn't walk till she was 3 years old. She didn't really say much till she was 3 years old, because again, it's muscles. She had therapists coming all the time to work with her on all of that.
So when you said she wasn't talking, I mean, are we talking like even muscles of using your mouth?
Sure. Oh yeah. We had to work on that. And well,
really?
She just didn't have the energy.
Yeah.
The muscle tone took away the energy as well.
You didn't have energy to talk? You don't have that problem now? No. You don't even notice it anymore, do you?
No.
No? Okay. Did you know that you were different than your sister when you were a little thing?
No.
No? Do you feel like you're different at all?
No.
No? You are who you are.
Yeah.
And I know that I know enough about you because we've had a good time visiting before the show, that you are a girl who knows what you want to do in this world, and you've got a plan. I've enjoyed talking with you and going through the studio and everything. So I want to ask you, and maybe I'll cut out for a minute from our conversation, because I do want to hear more about this as a parent's perspective. But let's turn to you now. You're 10 years old now?
Yeah.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Be a therapist, I don't know.
Be a therapist? What kind of therapist do you want to be?
Prader-Willi therapist.
So you want to talk to other parents and kids and talk to them about it? Okay. All right. I'm gonna remind you that in a few minutes, because I want to know from your perspective what kids need to know.
Yeah.
Okay? And what parents need to know about this. Okay? All right. So Kirsten has totally been aware all this time that she's been growing up that she's a little different than her 3 other siblings.
And it makes a difference. I mean, obviously you can see a difference in her. When you look at our other kids, they're skinny as a rail for the most part. could use some meat on their bones.
I'm kind of curious about the fact that you had this little baby with very little muscle tone who didn't want to eat, but now at 10 years old, she's a big girl.
Right. Well, Prader-Willi Syndrome, it's always there, but once it really kicks in with the critical part, which I call the critical part is the insatiable appetite. That kicks in about between 4 and 7 years old, basically. Once that kicks in, she's always hungry. Her body is telling her all the time she's starved. And no matter how much food she can put in, her body still thinks it's starving. So it's storing away, food, nutrients, calories, it's storing that away.
And part of that is, part of that is the fact that it's not, the muscles aren't working up to full capacity, and it doesn't know, it's trying to solve a problem. Is her body always trying to solve a problem? Well, her metabolism is not up and it's constantly trying to fuel, or?
It's, to some extent, that's true. Her hypothalamus isn't developed properly. It's dysfunctional. And our hypothalamus controls so many different things within our bodies, including the signals between our stomach and our brain. And she's not getting the signals from the stomach to the brain that, hey, I got food, we're good.
This is fascinating. So what Prader-Willi syndrome really is, it's not a muscle disease, it's not a physical disease, it's really it's a condition in her brain.
Correct.
It is a problem in the hypothalamus. It is a problem with the fact that the brain in that area for some reason did not develop, so nothing else developed.
Right,
and now it's making a difference in how she's going to live out her life.
Right, so the chemical processes that are controlled tell her how to build her muscle and how to, how much she needs to eat, how she's, it's really, it's kind of like the main control panel, controlling all these processes is just way out of whack. And
is this a congenital disorder? Is this something that comes down in your genes, where somewhere in your past there might have been someone else with this syndrome?
No.
Or how does a problem like this happen?
It's a fluke of nature, basically. And really, we have our chromosomes and whatever. If you have a problem with your chromosomes, whichever one it affects causes this condition. Unfortunately, her 15th chromosome from me, it's my fault, there's a portion deleted in her 15th chromosome, which as a result caused the Prader-Willi syndrome to develop, or her hypothalamus not to develop, and as a result, Prader-Willi syndrome.
Well, you gave me some really wonderful information to prepare for this interview, because this is, like I said, something I've never heard about. But you've mentioned the fact that she has a dysfunctional hypothalamus, an insatiable appetite. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting. No gag reflex, and that's when you can't, swallow a pill or whatever. And it's interesting that she doesn't have that.
Well, when you think about it, if we overeat, if we really overdo it, and many of us have, we might, regurgitate all that up.
Right.
She doesn't have that ability. And I think I did mention, they don't have the gag reflex. I think when she was 7, she was thrown up big time, and we were celebrating.
Because it
wasn't supposed to happen. The doctor said this wasn't going to happen. She doesn't have this ability, and here she's doing what they said she couldn't do. Mm-hmm. So I say we're celebrating. It was exciting, but at the same time, when that happens, it's a sign of something even more serious, because along with that, they have a high tolerance for pain. So we don't see things. When you or I get sick,
she puts up with stuff that
exactly.
we wouldn't put up with.
Exactly. When she gets sick, we have to watch for other signs. When her and Julianne are sick with the same thing, Julianne, it's clear because everybody's like that. We know
that the family is sick.
But with Kirsten, it's different. So we have to watch for other signs with her, and she's more tolerable, so she can put up with that kind of stuff.
So when she was sick to her stomach, it was a sign that she was truly very, very ill.
Right, and I think.
And you're celebrating, but then you were like, "Whoops."
Well, we didn't know that.
We need to take care of her because she's very ill.
Right. Yeah, we didn't know then. She was thrown up, and we wanted to take care of her, but.
But I think what I'm hearing is that as a parent, when that happened, any little glimmer of hope says to you, life is going to get better.
Right. Well, you're told by the doctor, and they can't tell you. They can't tell you, well, maybe, because then they're held accountable. So they tell you all the doom and gloom, and I don't believe all that stuff, because we get this little girl who's got her whole life in front of her, and yeah, she's going to have restrictions. She's going to have things that are going to obstacles in her way. And yes, Prader-Willi is going to affect her development, but we're still in control. She's still in control. There may be things she can't do completely, but she's going to decide. You know, the mental delays that they talk about. You know, we focused hard on that because I believe it's, in my opinion, the food. If you can get the food out of the equation, she can focus on learning. But if she's always thinking about food, you know, how's she going to learn?
It's very, you know, it's just such an interesting story, and your story about her getting sick to her stomach is really a very sad story, though. When you say that's the glimmers of hope that you're looking for as a parent, this is a hard thing to deal with.
It is.
And the other part of it that I think is really difficult to deal with is some of the things that you're talking about, you know, don't make sense to people who've never heard about it before, that she'll put up with a lot of pain and discomfort, but her body and her mind is still saying, I need to fuel my muscles, so I need to eat. And so she can have an insatiable appetite that she can't control, but she can still handle pain and she can control that. It just is so difficult to understand. But I think the most compelling part of the story and the saddest part of the story is our society and the way people treat other people, and the fact that somebody who is constantly feeling a need to eat to fuel their muscles, and then also, you know, growing as a result, is going to be discriminated against.
Right, and I mean, it's a juggling act. Her health, her life. My wife is amazing with all that she does to take care of Kirsten, but on the flip side, my other children sometimes get left out because of that.
Well, you are giving, right, and then that's, you know, they need support too.
Right.
They need fun. They need their parents' attention. They need to be special. And if you have one member of the family who's getting all the attention, then they're left behind.
Right, and you know, you worry about their future, and if they're off on their own because they're not getting attention, you know, where are they going, what are they doing, things like that. So we do our best to spread the wealth.
We need to take a break, and I hate to do that, but we're going to take a real quick break. And when we come back, I want to talk about this more, because I know that there's parents out there and grandparents that are watching this show saying, oh my gosh, this explains a lot, and they want to know where they can get more information. They need that support. They need to talk to somebody like you, Terry, and there's kids out there that need to talk to somebody like you, Kirsten. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this. We're talking about National Prader-Willi Awareness Month, and we've got some great websites to teach you more and more on our show. So don't go away. We'll be right back right after this.